Welcome to the Sentimental Twist,
where two generations share one love for meaningful spaces and gracious hospitality.
I'm Brittany.
And I'm Melissa.
Let's gather around the table and talk home, hosting, and all things sentimental.
Yay! So happy. Welcome, everybody, to season 4, episode 4 of the Sentimental Twist podcast. I know. Yeah. We're almost halfway through. I'm Melissa. You can find me at Home with a Twist on Instagram, homewithatwist.com, and Home with a Twist on YouTube.
And I'm Brittany. I'm at Brittany Shepard on Instagram, thesentimentaldecorator.com, and Brittany Shepard TSD on YouTube, and BrittanyShepard.com if you need marketing and social media and writing services.
One-stop shopping. Brittany is going to be helping me with a project I'm rolling out this fall, where it's an emphasis on hostess coaching. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah. So what have you been doing? Have you started your new job?
Officially, yes, but I can't tell you about it because I haven't started it in today's time yet.
Okay. All right. So let's see. What have I been doing?
Yeah. What you been up to?
I've really been trying to clock out every day at 4 and go sit by the pool.
I love that.
That's my motivation to get things done, content creation, whatever it is I need to work on, office time, answering emails, cleaning the house, doing laundry, all the things. And at 4 o'clock, Hazel and I go out to the pool. I don't know if she likes it or not. She hasn't said, but she'll get in. I'll get her in with me, and I hold her like a little baby, and we just float around in the water. I have to think, because she's not struggling to get out, that she actually likes it. And then she gets out and she goes and lays on a lawn chair, on the, lounge chair, and sits in the sun while I continue my floating.
I was recently targeted by an ad on Instagram that now you probably will be since we're talking about it, but it is a life jacket. Yes! The life jacket where the dog gets to rest their head on the little paddle kind of thing. So
would Annie do that? Would Annie stay in the water?
Annie wouldn't even get in the water. She would be so mad at me. Now, Brady, he liked the water.
He did.
He would float on the float with me. So
when I used to have a dachshund, she used to like to get on the float with me too. And she would flip over on her back and just sun herself, because they love to sun themselves. I mean, you could fry an egg on her stomach. It was so hot, but she loved it. She was literally like, I've seen a couple of people who have had the sound effect of frying bacon, and they go over and they turn their sausages, their dachshunds, to the other side so they can get fried on all sides. So
that's cute.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Hazel would get in the water, but she'd immediately try to swim to get out. It wouldn't be this lounging with her head rested on the pool.
Yeah, those dogs in that ad, they just are like, whoa, and they're just laying there.
Real? You think that's real?
It's probably AI. You never know these days if it's AI or what.
I mean, I started following them, but I don't know. But yeah.
But it's a neat product regardless. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, today we're going to kick it off with another reader email.
And Y'all have just been sending us emails, and we love it.
We love getting emails. Yes, we do. And this week comes from a listener, Teresa Jackson, and she won the Mind Your Manners etiquette game in our giveaway from last season when Lizzie Post from the Emily Post Institute was here. And I will tell you that Teresa is probably one of my earliest Instagram friends when I started posting more regularly. She was one of the earliest that came along, and we have had such a fun time getting to know each other back and forth. We've had some similar life experiences and things that have happened, and I don't know, it's just been a joy getting to know Teresa via Instagram for the last several years. But she's very much an inspiration to me, and you'll hear why when I read her email. But I'm going to read this email that Teresa sent us.
And it was prompted based on one of our earlier first or second episodes of this season, where we talked about our effort to try to not rush through August.
Yes, not rush the seasons away. Okay, so let me read it. Good morning, sweet friends. Congratulations on season 4. It was so good to see my 2 favorite ladies back on YouTube this morning. Okay, I just wanted to share how much I loved y'all. Texas twang added, okay? talking about not rushing the season. Melissa nailed it with her closing comments. I'm sad to admit I used to be one of those that rushed the seasons. In my defense, I was a teacher, and once school started, I couldn't wait for Thanksgiving, Christmas, spring, and then summer break. I get that, girl. I was always decorating early while I was out of school or putting my decorations away early before school would start back up. Over the years, this was my routine. I also had another routine. Once school was out and summer was here, I always went for all of my health checkups. One of my routine checkups was my yearly mammogram. Because my mammograms were always in June, it was summer, both times, 2012 and 2014, that I was diagnosed with breast cancer. While
Mm.
the diagnosis was a bummer, I was still blessed that I had the opportunity to have surgery and recover during the summer while I was off. I was also blessed both times to be able to qualify for a protocol that allowed me to take 6 weeks of radiation all in one week. I just had to go to MD Anderson twice a day for 5 days. I went through breast cancer treatments twice and went on about my life business, never thinking much about it because before I became a certified teacher, I had worked at MD Anderson Cancer Center for 10 years and knew how advanced we had become in treating cancer. June 2020 rolled around and COVID was on the scene, and I was diagnosed with cancer again, this
Oh,
time a different cancer. I remember the drive home so vividly that day. The words, "I hate summer," popped out of my mouth to my husband before I could stop them. As soon as I said those words out loud, I felt God saying, "Teresa, there's a reason for every season." He was right. It was during the summer that I was off work and could take care of myself. It was during the summer that I had received this horrible diagnosis of cancer 4 times and was able to focus on nothing else but kicking cancer's butt. I didn't have to worry about lesson plans, making sure I had a sub lined up to take my class, report cards, etc. All I had to do during this season was focus on getting well and growing closer to God. It has been during the summers that my relationship with God has grown and been strengthened. Sorry for such a long email, but I say all of this to say yes, enjoy each season. Don't rush them. Each season has a purpose. We just have to see it. For some, it's gardens that are still producing food. Flowers are still blooming. We still have daylight longer each day. We get to make memories with our children and grandchildren a little longer. We have time to complete those projects we've been wanting to do. Summer has a purpose. We just need to embrace it and not rush it. Thanks for reminding us not to rush the season, but to enjoy it. See y'all next week, Teresa. And so you see why
wow.
she's such an inspiration to me, and I feel like we have this little connection, like, maybe she's another version of my mother loving on me, you know? I've always felt that connection with Teresa, but thank you for this sweet email and helping us remember and remind us also to take care of ourselves in each season as we should. So,
I loved her email.
I know.
What it helps us to know and to it validates that we're on the right track with
Mhm.
the content that
Yes.
Brittany and I try to share,
Mhm.
because we might agree with each other's philosophies about not rushing through summer, but we don't know how it's gonna resonate with you guys.
Right.
Obviously, it has, because I shared a post on my Instagram about pausing for
Oh,
August.
yeah. Mhm.
And so many people were like, I needed this, or I'm totally with you. There are just so many times in life that like, I think we talked about when we did one of the seasons, we talked about how we tried to really make January an
Mhm.
intentional moment and
Mhm.
not dread it as, oh, the holidays are over and I'm so sad and I'm putting my decorations together. We'll use the winter season of being quiet as an
Mhm.
opportunity to really look within. So,
Mhm.
Teresa, thank you so much. We
Yes.
hope that your health is good and you had a great summer that maybe was free from having to go to the doctor, and you're off to a good school year
Yeah.
season.
Well, it's just a reminder to me there's a season for everything, and that's in Ecclesiastes, but some of those seasons obviously seasons come and they rotate. We see those seasons again if we're blessed to, but I think it's also about seasons of life and not just the seasons of the year. And so you may be in a season of loss, you may be in a season of transition, and you may be in a season of change in your home and your life. And so it's okay to like sit with that change and recognize that and find in yourself what you and your heart and your home needs in that season, not just the actual seasons of the year. So that's what I encourage y'all to do as well.
Yeah. And I've lived long enough to know I'm a spiritual person, and I talk to God on a daily basis, and a lot of our listeners have somebody that they talk to.
Mhm,
But I know for a fact that every time God presents me with something, good or bad,
mhm,
there is meaning behind it.
mhm,
And I've tried through maturity and through life lessons. I may not like it. I will try to sit with it and think,
mhm,
there's something here I'm supposed to be learning,
mhm,
working on, digesting. It's hard because
mhm,
sometimes it's not pleasant,
mhm,
um, but it's just part of life.
mhm. It is.
So, anyway, we'd love for you to weigh in on this topic,
Mhm.
or anything that we ever talk about. It helps us to know that we're on the right track. And even if we're not on the right track, we're open to different points of view. So,
Yeah. Let us know. Yeah, and we always wanna hear what's on your heart, and so if it feels like it's don't ever feel like you're too much. Okay.
no, because that's one of the things that has been a consistent comment on our readers or listener
Mhm,
survey, was that you feel like you're sitting down talking to two girlfriends,
mhm,
and that our podcast always tends to land in your feed on the day that you need the messaging that we're
mhm.
putting out there.
Yeah.
So, you're never too extra. I mean,
No,
Brittany and I are extra.
I like to say if I'm too much, go find less.
That needs to be on a t-shirt. I love that. If I'm too much, then go find someone else, find something that offers you less, or
Go find less.
go find less. Yeah, I'm not gonna there used to be a time that I used to apologize for being extra.
Mm,
And then I realized, and then there was a time that I tried not to be extra,
mm,
and that did not work for me. It was when I retired from my job that I'd had for 25 years, and I went to go work as a manager for a bed and breakfast in Ogunquit.
mhm,
And I've never shared publicly how it all ended up ending, but it was very toxic, the
mhm,
environment that I worked in. And I'm not embarrassed to say that. And I don't think it's anything that I wouldn't share. But I tried to not be extra. I tried not to be myself because I kept being told, "You're too much. You're too extra. You're too fast. Slow down. You're too this, you're too that." And it was 2 years, 2 seasons
mm,
that I went through that. And I finally just thought, "I am not gonna apologize for how God made me
mhm,
and how I choose to be successful." And
mhm,
so I walked away from that, and it took a while for me to really look within and question, was I right about that? Were they right about that? And it's, here I am. I left there in 23, so it's been 3 years,
mhm.
and I can now look back without it feeling so heavy, but
Yeah,
never apologize.
yeah, no.
So, okay. Well, that was deep.
It was deep. Gosh, I love when we have those moments, though, and
I
now
do
we're gonna lighten it up with
too.
porch talk, so
Porch Talk Speed Round. Brittany's favorite segment is where we ask each other questions.
Mhm.
We don't know what each other's answers are going to be,
No.
although they may be very similar.
Yes.
And we give quick responses so we can pull the back of the curtain and you can learn a little bit more about us.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, I always start first because Brittany likes to go first.
I don't really care.
Well, you ask me
I'll ask
first.
you first. Okay,
Okay.
let's go. Ready? Have a wraparound porch at your home or a chef's kitchen?
I bet you think you know what the answer is going to be.
Hmm,
A wraparound porch.
okay.
Did you
I
think
love
I
it.
was going to say kitchen?
I deduced that you might would say kitchen, but
Okay,
I was wrong.
so I grew up in a kitchen that was rectangular.
Mm,
Um, Sink on the left. The back wall was the hallway to the pantry into the living room with the stove on that wall. And on the right was the refrigerator.
mhm.
So it was a big kitchen, but everything was kind of done in, a
Arm's
rectangle. We
length.
didn't have an
Mhm.
island.
Yeah.
And then most of the kitchens that I have had have not been, except for the one I'm in now, it's a little bigger, have not been real big kitchens.
Mhm.
And I know when I've sold each house, the comment feedback from the people looking were like, the kitchen's too small. And I'm thinking, some of the best meals I made were in a small triangular
Mhm.
layout of, the triangle is basically your design of a kitchen should be a triangle.
Mhm.
Your access to your refrigerator, your access to your sink, and your access to your stove should make a triangle. And
Oh, you sound
so
very acute.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be literally a triangle, but kind of if you were to draw
Mm,
your path of where you migrate.
mhm.
So I don't really think a bigger kitchen is more practical.
Mhm.
Um, it's nice because that's where most people gather. But the
Yeah.
point is, I picked a wraparound porch because I'm thinking of all the ways I could lay out a wraparound porch.
Mhm.
Outdoor dinner parties
Mm.
and have,
Napping spot.
yes, a napping spot, a bar spot, a
Mhm.
dining spot,
Mhm.
and how I could just merchandise it with all kinds of cute little patio furniture and wicker and ferns and plants. So that would
Mhm.
be what I would pick.
Okay. All right. What snack disappeared that you'd bring back?
So in the 1970s, when we were going 1970, 1776 to 1976, so 200 years, is that right?
Mhm. Mhm.
God, it was 200 years and now we're 250.
50. Mhm.
They made these little snack cakes that were made by, they were Dolly Madison cupcakes, and they were a vanilla cupcake. They're zingers. Remember zingers? They still
Okay.
sell zingers, but they're not real plentiful.
Oh,
Little shaped like this,
okay.
little, almost like a finger cupcake, like a
Mhm.
Twinkie, except not.
Mhm.
Cake with filling, and it had this really sweet little buttercream frosting that was white, and then on the top, these tiny little red, white, and blue stars.
Oh, cute.
And we happened to be camping that summer. So
Oh.
every little grocery store, convenience store had these Dolly Madison Zinger cupcakes. They don't make them anymore. I can't, when I Google, I can't even find them. That was my childhood snack I wish that they would bring back. Oh, and the other one is Stern Frost.
Hmm.
Do you remember Stern Frost?
Nope.
Okay, so Stern Frost it came in a box with a pan that was lined in a coating that looked like foil. So it was a bakeable, disposable cardboard foil pan. And inside of it was the box of cake mix and a box of ready-made frosting in a
Mhm.
in a pouch. The whole premise was you would bake it in
Mm.
the pan, then it would come out of the oven, and then you would ice it. And it was probably half the size of a sheet of paper,
Okay.
but it was the perfect size for sleepovers because you
Mm.
could make it and then you could take your fork and you and your girlfriends could just eat out of the pan.
Yeah.
It was perfect for when you broke up with a boyfriend.
Mm. Needed a cookie.
Um, yeah, perfect for, if your husband went out of town and you wanted to be by yourself and eat a cake and not have any record of it,
Mhm.
you could eat it. So it's called
Yeah.
Stern Frost. If anybody remembers the Stern Frost, I really miss that.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm gonna look that up.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah,
What TV show did your family never miss?
the Waltons.
Oh, John Boy.
We would sit around in the living room. It usually came on after dinner, and we would or it would come on and we would plan dinner on TV trays and sit in the
Mhm.
living room and watch the Waltons on
Cute.
one of those big TVs that was kind of like a console.
Mhm.
Yeah, where you couldn't lift it. If you wanted to move the TV, you'd have to hire movers to move your furniture around.
Mhm.
But it was
Mhm.
the Waltons.
Yeah. I have a Waltons memory. It's not so much the actual show, but for a while, my dad's first cousin and his wife, they were renovating the house, kind of our backdoor neighbors, and so they stayed with us for a time, and my dad's first cousin name was Jess, and he and my brother is Blake, and somehow my brother started saying, "Night, Jesse boy," and "Night, Blakey boy," and that just became the thing, like, while they were staying with us for a few weeks, and so my brother's 5 years younger than me, and I was probably 9 or 10 at the time, so he was little, so that's
Let
my
me
Waltons memory.
let me look and see, when did the Waltons air? Because you might have been too little.
I've seen it, but not maybe in real time,
Yeah.
just reruns.
When did Waltons air? It was on from 72 to 81.
I was not born when it stopped airing.
So in 72, I would have been 8.
Okay.
And in 81, what was on a long time, it was on
It
11
was
years, 12 no, 10 years, 9
9
years.
years.
In 81, I would have been, I think, a freshman in high school.
Mhm.
Is that right? I don't know. Anyway, maybe not. Okay.
Well, I was born in '84, so that sounds about right, ish.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. A neighbor who made a difference, tell us.
She lived next door to us. Her name was Mrs. Condra, and she lived in a beautiful, old, historic home, and she was very refined. Her husband was a very prominent attorney in
Mhm.
town. I remember making cookies, and my mother would always say, "Let's make a plate for you to take next door."
Mhm.
And at that time, her husband was still alive, and then he got sick. And I remember going over to take cookies, and he would be in his hospital bed. And he was always so sweet and kind. And then
Mhm.
after he died, she continued to live next door to us for many years until she moved, I think, closer to be with her daughter. But she would always gift me very grown up gifts
Oh.
that were appropriate, but like I didn't know what to do with them at the time. And I would give anything now to have one. And one of them was a beautiful beaded evening bag
Oh.
that that had the little snap on the
Uh-huh.
top, and it was white and it had beads on it. And I remember opening it and thinking, "This is the prettiest thing I've ever seen. What do I do with it?" My mother said, "Well, when you're a big girl and you go to prom or something, you would take the purse." Well, of course I didn't, and I don't know what happened to it. I'm sure it got
Oh.
given away, but she just was always really thoughtful to give me, really. And so after when she moved, my parents bought a lot of her antique pieces
Oh, that's cool, yeah.
because he had a lot of really heavy law office furniture. I'm sure your dad probably has some in his practice, where it's just these huge library tables and filing cabinets and telephone desks and
Mhm.
things that were very finely made. And she was always really sweet to my family.
Mhm.
And when she sold her house, my sister bought it, and she and my brother-in-law lived next door to us for the longest time and raised their 2 girls. So I could just walk next door and babysit or play, and that was fun.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, last one, it's fill in the blank. My comfort meal is
I just had it recently. I hadn't had one in years. It was a chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, green beans. I would normally put corn in there and
Mhm.
gravy. It was at
Mm.
the Omni when
Mm.
Doug and I went from the collaboration that I did. And I told the waitress I wanted chicken fried steak, and she said, "I am so sorry, but we're completely out." And I said, "How can you be out of chicken fried steak in a cow town, Fort Worth?" And she's like, "I know. We had a big, convention this weekend and we sold out." So I was like, "Okay, I'll get the salmon." So she came back to the table and said, "You're in luck. The chef found some chicken fried steak." It was perfectly crunchy on the outside, real salty, but like good salty, seasoned. The steak was fork tender. I
Mm.
said, "I need to speak to the person who made this." So the chef came out and I got a picture taken with him, and I told him it was the best chicken fried steak I think I've ever had.
That
It
sounds
was
good.
so
Hungry.
good. I know, we always talk about food, but it would be chicken fried if it was the ideal meal, it'd be chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes with corn and gravy,
Mhm.
iced tea, unsweetened, and maybe like chocolate cream pie or a nice piece of chocolate cake.
Mhm.
That would
Me
be my death row meal.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Would you have a wraparound porch or chef's kitchen?
Me too, wraparound porch.
And
I
why?
debated the kitchen. I don't have a huge kitchen now, but this is the nicest kitchen. But I wouldn't really it doesn't bother me that there's not chef's appliances and things like that. So a wraparound porch, I just need the weather to not be as hot all the time.
And not have mosquitoes that are going to want to carry you away.
True. So
What snack disappeared that you wish they would bring it back?
I honestly could not think of anything specific
What?
until and I know, but because as a kid listen, I'm a child of the '80s and '90s. It was the fat-free era. So, like,
Oh, I'm so
you
sorry in
know
advance.
yes.
Yes.
So, like, the snack wells and those kinds of things. I'm not bringing any of that back.
Oh, snack wells, I forgot about those.
Yeah,
Ugh.
and so but I did think about I love chips. Chips are always my snack of choice, and in college, at the Kroger, there was a Lay's. I don't know if it was just like one of those limited edition chips that they had, but it was lime and cracked pepper. And it was so good. Good chips, and I would bring those back. And I've always kind of looked for them, and I've looked on Amazon, and they've had some, and I ordered, and then it got canceled. Like the order got canceled. I've tried to find them over time. So
I
I
have
know.
seen it's like they call it a citron lay, like a Lay's that's citron, but doesn't
Maybe
have black pepper.
see, that was what made it, was the
Yeah.
black pepper with the lime. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like vinegar and black pepper chips. I like those. Okay. What TV show did your family never miss?
Gosh, I was so busy as a child with all of my extracurriculars. I never really watched TV that much other than, like, Saturday morning, Georgia Public Broadcasting from time to time, and we lived in the country, so we didn't have satellite till I was, like, a teenager. But as I got older, mama and I would try to hit, like, Dateline or Extreme Home Makeovers episodes if we
Yeah.
could, like, those were on Friday nights, and so,
Yeah. When you'd have
uh,
your girl dinner or your what did you call it? A dirty Saturday?
Dirty Saturdays, yes, that's what we have.
That's when you didn't bathe and you just had on pajamas all day and just would
Pajamas
eat
all day
chips
and eat
and
chips and
snacks,
salsa.
binge on Snackwells.
Yeah, no, I don't know. But I couldn't think of, like, a treat, like a sweet treat that doesn't exist anymore from my childhood that I would wanna I can't think of anything that I'd wanna bring back. Anyway, that's the last question. But,
Okay. A neighbor who made a difference.
gosh, I've had so many at every stage of my life. Like, when I was a baby and we lived in town before we built our house, there was an older couple that were, like, served as my grandparents in the neighborhood. I called them Nanny and Pappy, but they aren't related to me. And then I've had wonderful neighbors everywhere I've lived. Like, when I lived in an apartment, my downstairs neighbor would go and let my dog Bailey, my first little dog Bailey, out for me during the day, or bring him to their house to stay so he wouldn't be by himself all day. And then my last house, my neighbors, they always helped me go get my Christmas tree and put it up for me so I didn't have to do that all by myself from the Christmas tree lot. And then just yesterday, my sweet neighbors Jen and Joe brought me some fresh okra from their garden to cook for my family and friends this weekend. And he's going to cut me a bouquet of zinnias for the table and bring it to me this weekend. Like, so
Is this the same couple who checked on you to make sure you weren't deceased when your car never left the driveway after your knee surgery?
different couple, but
Okay. Well, it's good to have a tribe of people who are
yes.
bringing you flowers, okra, and making sure you're not dead in the house.
Right. And then Dan across the way last year, like my hydrangeas had not taken off at my lime lights. He let me cut all his lime lights to use for dried arrangements and dried lime lights for the fall. I just have really good neighbors.
That's
Tony jumps my car off from time to time when I need it.
wow, you just have them coming from all directions.
Yeah, I'm grateful.
Well, but you're a very sweet person, and people like to help those who are kind and appreciative. So
They're all
it
super
brings
kind.
joy.
Yeah.
What is your comfort meal? Your death row meal?
So many things, but the thing I'm going to say, like, I
Mm,
have that kind of meal, like the country fried steak, the chicken fried steak or whatever, those kind of things. All the things my granny cooked that I try to recreate. New Year's Day meal, I love the New Year's Day meal, those kind of things. But I'm going to say my mama and granny, because it was theirs, spaghetti.
really?
Yeah, because the meat sauce was made from scratch, nothing crazy. It was, veggies and ground beef and crushed tomatoes, or if granny had canned tomatoes, we'd use those. And I don't know, it was just like like something that was always comforting growing up, and even now, I don't make it often at all, but, like, when I'm having one of those long weekends where I get to stay at home, I'll make a pot of spaghetti sauce and eat on it all weekend,
Mm,
you know?
that's
So
such a good when the weather starts to cool off.
mhm.
I
Mhm.
love those hearty meals.
Mhm.
Speaking
Yeah.
of
Mm.
comfort food, did you ever make the cream corn? We talked about it.
That's what I'm making this next weekend in this time frame, and so it'll be a couple more episodes before I can
You can talk
report
about
back.
it. Okay.
Yes.
Well, Miss Kate Bagley
Yes.
shared on a story that she made cream corn. She was
I remember that.
inspired by yeah, and that she was also going to get us her banana bread recipe because she said
I
she
need to
had
know
one.
how much butter Kate used.
Well, you might want to DM her.
Yes. Kate actually made a great suggestion, and we need to figure out how to do this. She messaged me, and she's like, "I'm always wanna talk back to y'all and, like, chime in to the conversation." And I think there's a way we can do this, but do a live episode where we have call-ins.
Let's do that one of the episodes this season.
We gotta figure it out how to do it, like, the technology, I've got to figure that out, but
We'd have to do it in the evening
yes, so
when
people are
most
available.
people are
Yeah,
listening to us or home from work or school or
right.
whatever. I would love that.
Yeah, I gotta figure it out.
Doesn't
I'm
I
sure
wonder.
there's a way to do it, I just don't know how yet.
Yeah, because I remember during COVID when we were doing when I was still working and we were doing event planning, we all of our event planning we had to go virtual.
Mhm.
And I don't think it was Riverside, but it was one platform that we did a live show on Facebook.
Okay. Well, we could do something. See, like, Instagram Lives, the other people don't get to be seen. I don't like that. So we could do something, or we could schedule a live Zoom call or something and record it and have people just pop in and it be like this big party situation. I don't know. Let's think about it. We'll think about how to do that.
Yeah, and so this is not on this. I want to bring this up because we're talking about it, but I'll do it in a blessed. I had to share it.
Okay. Okay. What's
Okay,
it?
so
Oh,
now we're gonna move on, and y'all are gonna get to hear from our guest, Shannon Howard, who's the founder of Dear and Always. Shannon is specializes in the best way I can describe it is that she specializes in preserving the written word into keepsakes
mhm,
with lovely stationery suites and curating correspondence for milestone events.
mhm,
So think instead of a guest book
mhm,
at a wedding or a baby shower. Think beautiful cards that
mhm,
are personalized that you can write a special note to the couple
mhm,
that'll be put in envelopes and then put into a gorgeous box that you can save it.
mhm.
I can't wait for you to learn more about what Shannon does and what she's trying to do to preserve the written word because I know that when Brittany and I find things that were written by our mothers and it's in their handwriting or our grandmother's recipes, there's just something so heartfelt about it. So let's take a listen to our interview with Shannon and then we'll come back and talk about what really spoke to us. Okay, everyone. I am so excited to bring our guest to the Sentimental Twist podcast today, Shannon Howard. Shannon and I actually met at a little an art home decor store in Dallas about a month ago
Mhm.
with my artist friend Catherine.
Yeah.
And many of you know I've talked about Catherine a lot. And Catherine was there as with a trunk show showcasing her latest collection of heirloom plates and you're all about heirlooms in a different way. So we started chatting, and you told me about your business, and I said, You have to be on our podcast. So, Shannon, your vision of what you're doing in your business perfectly aligns with our themes of storytelling and legacy and heirlooms and preserving what matters. So, the words we leave behind matter. So, first of all, it's Shannon Howard with, you can find her on Heirloom Letters Studio on Instagram, right? Are there two of those or is one
They're
yours? Are they both yours?
they're both mine, and I will
Okay.
tell that story of the evolution of heirloom letters and what it now, even since I met you, kind of evolved into a new additional business that
Okay. Okay. So
so I have
tell everybody about
yay.
who you are, what you bring to the table, and how everyone needs to be on board with the messaging that you're sharing.
Yes, thank you so much. It was such a delight to meet you and Catherine that day, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna give them my card because they seem like they'll understand what I'm talking about." And you said it so beautifully. It's basically the way I say it is every heirloom holds a story. So we have to go, okay, maybe there's this recipe box or a Bible or a piece of jewelry, but we don't know maybe the whole story behind it. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if people who were passing these things along would just write a little letter? It doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be hard. It just needs to hold the story of that heirloom. So that was really the original idea. Okay, so every heirloom holds a story. So I wanted people just to feel like it's easy to tell that story. It's just a simple letter, just put it in writing. Then you can tuck it away with that heirloom or have a little system. So that's kind of how Heirloom Letters Studio began, just as a very simple idea of storytelling through letter writing and bringing back the art of handwritten letters as well, because you want to give that letter to someone. You're not writing it for yourself necessarily, but kind of you are. You're reflecting, you're going through the memories of why that item was special, that piece. And people don't even understand maybe what an heirloom is. And it's like, it can be the cast iron skillet. It can be a photograph. It doesn't have to be valuable or in an estate plan or in a will, but of course it can be. And even for those items, maybe it is even more important to tell its story. So that's where the business aspect kind of started from. Well, maybe there's a partnership with people who are doing estate planning or legacy planning, and we need to help people archive these words, these letters. So I created kind of a kit system, if you will, beautiful box to house letters. And then it turned into Dear and Always. So that's the other way you can find me. And that's the one that's more active right now. Dear and Always, like Dear Melissa,
Yes.
Always Shannon. So I was trying to create these letter writing salons, train people, give them away with beautiful stationery on archival paper that's beautiful, to just kind of keep these letters safe and give people time and space to write. So my original idea was just kind of hold these letter writing salons, allow people to ask questions. I would guide them. And I was a teacher for 20 years. I taught writing, and I noticed when students would write letters that were authentic, it was more beautiful than the compulsory writing that we would make them do, like write an essay. That would freak them out. But if they wrote a letter, they understood that. So it's the simplicity of just getting your thoughts on paper. So, Dear and Always, before that, I was kind of chasing people going, would they come to me for this event, a little letter writing salon, which sounds beautiful, but I'm not sure if people would do that. And I do think they would. But Dear and Always is like you're already having a party. You're already having a wedding, a bridal shower, a baby shower. So now Dear and Always has these beautiful boxes with the letters in there, personalized for the event, for the guest of honor. And so it's basically stationery, personalized, so the guest can write these celebratory letters and keep them in a keepsake box. They have personalized prompts that kind of match up with the guest of honor's personality. They have little seals that are personalized, so you can have that ceremonial sealing. And I have some wax seals, and I can do personalized wax seals, or I can do printed sticker seals, which are a little easier and more manageable. But it's the personalization, it's the thoughtfulness, and it's the getting your thoughts and your appreciation of the people on paper so they know and they can revisit these letters. And then the heirlooms are the letters themselves in this keepsake box on beautiful paper. You can read them again and again, and you can learn to write your own letters from the act of people just simply writing a letter to you. You're like, pay it forward. I'm going to write letters from now on. So it's turned into much more than my original idea, but that heirloom letters idea is still there. Writing your legacy, figuring out what matters to you, putting it on paper so that people understand who you were, maybe when you've passed on, and you want someone to remember and to know how you really were. And it all started also from I read these old letters when I used to own a bed and breakfast, and I had a lot of history of the home. But when I read the words of this woman in society in the 1900s, early 1900s, like my letter is from 1915, and she was writing a letter to her daughter who was at Wellesley's College. And this home was in East Texas, in Marshall. And I owned a bed and breakfast then. So the great-granddaughter gave me these little stack of letters, and I was fascinated by the daily life of this woman who went to the hair salon, went to her council meetings on creating a public library for the city. She hosted operas in her home. She was embroidering a pillow for her daughter. She was deciding what to buy for Christmas gifts and graduation gifts for her nieces and nephews. And she was worried about a rat that was as big as a cat that she had seen in the upstairs
Oh my
attic.
gosh.
And she was worried about the neighbors who, were feeling, ill, and what could she do for them? So just the insight that that letter or that little stack of letters brought to me was like, "Oh, wow, you really do see a person's life," because now we have Instagram and text messaging and emails, and they go into cyberspace and the cloud, and we don't know how to gather them up. They're there, and we do curate and collect photos and letters digitally now, but there's something about that tactile feeling of opening up that letter, feeling that luxurious paper, and reading the words that someone took the time to write that is precious. And you can keep them and read them over and over and keep them in your sight so that you can read them again. So that was
I think you bring up a good point. I think with all of the quickness of texting and just quickly shooting out an email, letter writing is almost like a diary.
Mhm.
I mean, you just share so many more points and thoughts, and it's I don't know, it's much more beautiful than the quick text message of thanks so much for coming to my wedding. I loved the vase. I can't wait to fill it with flowers.
Yeah.
When do you think we stopped writing letters?
I do think the digital age definitely made it easy to not write a letter. I think that when postage went up,
Oh
the
my gosh.
price went
Every
down.
every seems like every couple of months we get an email or some
Yeah.
notice in the news. I think it's almost a dollar. Not is it 90 cents now
I think it's
almost?
gonna be 81 cents or 82 cents in July, I think, but, if you have something special you're mailing, you have to weigh it, you have to go into the
Right.
post office. It became
Right.
hard to just, buy stamps and do it kind of this old-fashioned way, but also the slowing down and the simplicity of doing that, going to the post office, but who wants to stand in line at the post office? And then we could buy stamps at the grocery store, but you have to get the right kind of stamps and you have to know how much it costs. And yeah, I think there was just a time, even when I got married and I had to write all those thank you notes, and I say had to because my mother would have a heart attack if I didn't. And I did, and we had a lot of people come to my wedding, and I had a lot of gifts, and I had a lot of showers, and that was back in the '80s, and it was so fun, but I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed with that many parties. I was overwhelmed at the attention at these many showers and luncheons and festivities that were in my honor. I loved it. I was so grateful, but then you get married and the big day comes and goes, you go on a honeymoon, and then you have this duty of writing the letters, and it felt like a burden, even though it was a blessing, and you didn't know what to say. It's like we hadn't been trained properly in this type of etiquette. It was something more that my mother cared about more than I did. Of course, I wanted to appreciate the
Sure.
people who honored me and gave us these many, many gifts. But it was quite overwhelming. And I remember writing many letters, mailing them off, and then writing some more. It's just because you couldn't do it in one sitting. Like if I could have just done, but it was a lot. So I remember finding years later a box of letters that had stamps on them and everything that I never put in the mail. And I was
Oh,
horrified. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And the postage had changed, and it was embarrassing and so shameful that I never mailed these letters that I did take the time to write. And I think that's the thing too. Our lives got so busy in the '80s or '90s. I don't know. I'm going to blame, uh, everything. I don't know, time, our generation. I don't know if there's one time I can pinpoint it, but it became where sitting down to write a letter, because there were easier methods now, email, whatever, that the big luxury is the time it takes to sit down and write and stamp and mail. And I do think it's coming back. I'm so excited to see it. I've
I
seen
hope
this
so because
transformation.
there is so much joy in receiving handwritten mail, even if it's just a
Mhm.
greeting card. I mean, I think the
Yes.
greeting card industry is probably suffering too because people aren't sending Cards. So I have a question for you, or actually a couple of things. In
Yeah.
our podcast, we talk a lot about sometimes children feel the burden of heirlooms, you know?
Yes. Yeah,
And I think
absolutely.
when Brittany and I get any feedback on our socials, it's usually from people that are like, you have way too much stuff and you're leaving it for your kid to have to sort through.
Yes.
Brittany and I are of the philosophy, well, if our kids want it, great. If they don't, we're dead. So we don't really know. You can take it to
Right.
Goodwill or whatever you want to do with it. But one of the things we say, your children are going to be much more likely to want your things if they know that there's a story behind it.
Absolutely.
So, how can our listeners who maybe have some cherished items take your philosophy of writing down memories and sentiment and maybe turn that into something that could help their children, their grandchildren know how important a cherished plate is, for example?
Yes. Well, that's the easy answer is simply write that letter. So I'm designing a 7-letter system that you can just choose 7 heirlooms because a lot of people have a lot and maybe they need more, but let's just start with 7. And you can just start with 1 if all you want to do is write 1 letter. That's great. Just record that story. But this 7-letter framework that I've kind of created for Heirloom Letters Studio is just kind of going through the origin story. Where did it come from? Um, what did it mean to you? And so it's like a little prompt of answering these questions about that heirloom, that piece of furniture, or that piece of jewelry, or the Bible that was a family Bible. Where did it even come from? It's the story behind it that it holds that does make that piece valuable. Um, Not necessarily monetarily, but
Right.
you're
Sentimentality.
sentimental to the people. And it's like if your mother wanted you to have it, I would want to keep it simply because she wanted me to have it, or my grandmother. Just like, oh, you wanted me. This was for me. And it's not just, okay, here's all the stuff. Y'all sort through it, which I've also heard. And I've had family members say that. It's like, here it all is. And if you want any of it, just come to the estate sale and buy it because maybe the aunt or the person and you want something from them. But we went through the process of going to the estate sale and purchasing even the items from my aunt because that's how they processed all the beautiful things that she had, and they were beautiful. So I have a little table. It's that little drum table in the background. Yeah, that was one that I got from that estate years and years and years ago. So it's special, but I don't know the story from it from her because she was already passed on and gone. I don't know where it came
Right.
from. I just know it was
Right.
hers.
Wow.
So but it probably was special to her in a certain way. But if there's something special that you know for sure you want someone to have, that's when you need to take the time. And again, time is the luxury. Take the time to write that story, to tell the story that the heirloom holds, to say why it was important to you. And my mother has a lot of beautiful things too. And I know bits and pieces of the stories, and she's collected Christmas ornaments from all over the world. And every year she'll kind of tell us the story. But I'm like, oh, wow, I need to like follow her around and record this and then put it on paper. So that's part of Heirloom Letters Studio is to create that archival system, to have the letters, a ledger, a little chart that's all beautiful and simple and easy to do. And so I'm also kind of developing a book that's the same thing. It's kind of your life story. So even just telling your life story, and there'll be a section in there to include 7 heirlooms of your choosing that you can put into a beautiful book that'll be bound and you can pass that along. Or even if you just do it for yourself, it's to reflect and remember the important things and people in your life and kind of to think, oh, this is my life story. Maybe I won't write a memoir, but I can write 7 letters into a beautiful book that'll make sense and tell, my faith, my love, my calling, what I did,
Mhm.
memories. And again, it's all part of a 7-letter framework that I've kind of put together that goes to everything.
I think you raise a good point because a lot of time I know that when my parents were living with me, I was busy being their caregiver. So I didn't take the time, and I wish that I had, to ask them questions about certain things. And then after they're gone, you're like, why didn't I stop long enough to ask them that question? And like you said, record it and write it down, because we think we're going to remember and we don't.
We don't. I think I remember, and then I'll go back to something that my mother has mentioned, and I'll look at it, either this piece of china or a whole collection that she bought somewhere or bought from a friend, and it's a beautiful Limoges set, and I'm like, "Oh, this came from this person," and she said, "Oh, no, that one was your great aunt's," and I'm like, "Oh, I got got 'em mixed up because the patterns are so similar and they're kind of a same color scheme," and I'm like, "Oh, wow, I really do need to know which is which because one is more special than the other as far as
Right.
family heirlooms."
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's just hard to make decisions too.
My mother had a set of Wedgwood strawberry dishes,
Okay.
and I was pulling them out of the cabinet recently, and my daughter Phoebe said, I want these someday. And I said, I'm so
Mm,
glad you do, because they belong to
yes.
your grandmother. Well, when I was in Santa Fe, see, my sister's 77. She was 15 when I was born. So she really is almost like a second mother to me. And
Mhm.
she has so much knowledge about things that when I mentioned to her that Phoebe wanted those strawberry dishes, she said, well, mother brought those back from England. Like, she bought them at the Wedgwood.
Oh,
And I'm like, I had no idea. So as you're talking, I'm thinking I need to send her one of those 7-letter systems
mhm,
and have her use it. Maybe she uses one for my mother's china, but maybe there's some things that she has of my mother's that when she passes on, her girls will want to know the story behind them. So I had no idea that there was a story behind the Wedgwood dishes.
mhm.
So what in particular, was there a letter or a note or a family keepsake that changed the way that you think about legacy?
I do think that, my mom did a collection for her 5 sisters and put a bunch of old photos in old school photo albums with the paper that you rip up and put the photos in, and she collected and scanned in photos and made 5 copies and made one for each of the 5 daughters. This was years ago. She was doing back then what I kind of am trying to do now, but it was so personal. She was making it for her 4 sisters, the 5 girls in the family, and they were beautiful. Well, then when the sisters passed away, because like you, she had older sisters, the daughter of my oldest aunt has that one of the books and she goes, I guess my mom made this. And I'm like, oh no, my mother made that for your mom. She said, I didn't even know where this came from, but here it is. So then the digital age came. My cousin got this and kind of reformatted it into a Shutterfly book, hardbound, and kind of just put the ones that she thought in it. Some of the people she didn't even know who they were, and I knew who they were a little bit. I said, "Oh, I know who that is, and I know who this. These sepia print pictures, and they're really cool." And then, so she kind of recurated what my mother had done and made this other book. So it's transitioned over time. And that's when I thought, okay, people want this, they need it. And if they have the initiative to create these 5 handmade scanning in and printing out photos, and they have the time to do that, that's great. But my mom made up that system for herself. My cousin used, whatever to print this book. And now it's kind of like, okay, we'll help you do that. Heirloom Letters Studio will archive these, help people scan, put it together. There are memory shops and photo shops that can do this for you as well. So, but it's the writing part that I think trips people up. That's the part. You can see the photos, but you still don't know who's in them. You can see the pieces or the heirlooms or the Wedgwood china, but you don't know the story it holds. So, kind of that, wow, my cousins didn't even know that their moms had this book because it was like a Christmas gift. It was kind of the realization that this is important to people and they hold on to these things for years and years even without the knowledge. So,
Yes, and I think you raise a good point, is that your mom and her generosity never fathomed that no one would know where they came from, where the books
Mhm.
came from. So
Mhm.
even a note from your collection of stationery that your mom could have written and somehow affixed it in there, then the aunt's children would know, oh my gosh, this came from, your
Yeah,
mother.
it came from Aunt
So,
Linda.
right, Aunt
I don't
Linda.
even know what year that was, and my mom has her book, and I'll be visiting her soon this next week, and I'm gonna ask to see that book and see if I can kind of recurate it like my cousin did and kind of Heirloom Studio that collection. So, it is a little bit of digital work that we can do to help archive, but really the simplicity of taking the time to make a decision, and that's what I think also trips people up. They can't decide what to write about first. That's why I thought, oh, if you can just say which 7 things, or if you could only pick one, which would it be? That's the one we're going to start with. Or if you could only write one letter to someone that you wished to write a letter to, or if you need to tell someone something that's left unsaid, who would that letter go to? Let's just start there and write that one letter. And then it opens up a whole pathway and a little bit of confidence to say, oh, I can write another letter now. So there are people in my life I wish I'd written letters to that are gone. It's like I can still write the letter. It'll still be out there in the universe and it'll help me process my thoughts and feelings. So that's a good one too. Things that are left unsaid can be said in a letter as sort of a release and a peace that comes from just putting your thoughts on paper.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions is that if you were to coach someone to write only one heirloom letter this year, what would you encourage them to begin with?
Well, it is just pick that one thing that means the most, not the most expensive, not the thing that someone else wants you to. So just choose that one thing that's the most special to you because that's the easiest. You know about it. You write what you know. That's always the best advice. What does it mean to you? Where did it come from? Who do you want to gift this to one day? And maybe you want to give it to them now instead of waiting until you pass on. And when I first started Heirloom Letters, I thought it was so about death, and I did not like that. I didn't like that feeling, that shadow of death always kind of, well, I'm processing my things for when I die, or someone has died, and now I have to process these items, these heirlooms, and it's yucky. It feels icky. You kind of don't want to even deal with it. And then time passes and it's easier sometimes. But I do think just searching your own heart and saying, let me just choose that first one. And then if I can pick 7, maybe I don't have to prioritize yet. I've got 7 and I can just then say, oh, this one is the first one. So give yourself a little short list and then work from there.
Okay, that's a really good tip. Tell us about the keepsake letter boxes and for the different gatherings that you mentioned. Who are they
Yes.
for, and what does that look like?
Okay, so the box is in production right now. So I'll get my sample box in a couple of weeks. But I designed it like a little jewelry box or a drawer that you pull out, and it has the stationery in there. So, for example, let's say it's a wedding reception, and instead of a guest book, you want to do a letter writing salon. So I have a backdrop, sort of a little set, a little station. You know how at weddings now they're doing these watercolor paintings and these bottles, champagne bottle artwork. And now it's like
Mhm.
write a letter to the bride and groom or the happy couple and seal it, write your letter. I have the prompts there. It's personalized with the couple's names on it. It has the date of their wedding or their reception, whatever the event is, I can personalize it for that event. And it just takes a couple of weeks to produce these. So the system is in place and the box is in production, and I have some other boxes to use, the keepsake boxes, kind of in the meantime while this precious box is produced. But it's the collection of letters that people write to you. So I have them for a baby shower. That's called the Sweet Debut. I have them for the bride to be for the bachelorette party, or it's called Shower Her with Letters. So people do this. They do it yourself versions. They might get a little book, or they might say pass it around and write a little note to give to the bride. And so now it's in a keepsake box that they take the time at the event, a little shower game or a little activity. And then I have one that's generic, kind of for any celebration. I hate to say generic. That's kind of sounds so
Well,
boring, but
it could be retirement, or it could be a
exactly.
70th birthday party,
It's any
or you
birthday,
wrote your first
retirement,
book, you know?
a farewell, party, a bonfire, yeah, a big promotion. And that one's simply called Here's to You. And it has a guest of honor. And just the people get to write a letter, and then you read it later, and you can save them and have those precious words and you get to know how people really felt about you and what that event meant. So it can be for quinceañeras. I have a quinceañera box because I live in South
Oh,
Texas now.
yeah.
And that's very traditional. So I'm having a box that'll be special for the quinceañeras. And those are big special events that are many times based on religious culture as well. So they like the sentimentality. It's a culture and it is beautiful. And I've loved talking to some of the people and learning more about the history of the quinceañera and why it's so important. So it's a sweet 16, a bar mitzvah, a quinceañera. Any of these can have a celebratory, dear and always keepsake box.
Yeah, and then especially if it's, like, for a baby or for a wedding, you can keep reading them every year on your anniversary,
Yes.
or, as what a great thing for your child to get someday when they're old enough to read those letters. I mean,
Hmm.
you're just doing God's work, putting everybody's messages on paper. Okay, so have you listened to the podcast?
I have.
Okay, are you familiar with Porch Talk Speed Round,
Yes.
where Brittany and I ask each other questions, and then
Yes.
we answer, and we see if our answers are different? But
Yep.
I'm going to ask you the questions today. Okay, you
Okay.
ready?
I'm ready. Yes.
Letter or phone call?
Letter.
Okay. Save or toss old greeting cards?
That's a hard one. I like to save them and then I might toss them later, but I love to look at the greeting cards, especially if there's a handwritten note in it. So if it's just an average card that someone sent and you don't love that picture, sometimes I frame the greeting card pictures
Yeah.
or yeah, so I'll say save them for now because they'll become heirlooms and they're
Okay.
just sweet.
What is your
Yeah.
favorite pen that you like to write with?
Oh, I have a fountain pen. My very favorite one is a kind of a less expensive one that I just got on Amazon, but it is kind of a modern day fountain pen. You don't have to change, it's disposable. You don't have to change the thing, but I did buy a beautiful fountain pen and I do love writing with it. But it's a little more trouble and I have to slow down a little bit more to make sure that it does what I want it to do. And I do love it. It's kind of a pearlized white and it's from Ellington, that pen company that I found. I just found it online and it's beautiful. But the practical ones are these fountain pens, but you have to have time to let them dry. You have to have a little patience and you have to kind of learn how to use that tip of it that the ink flows. But oh, it's my favorite.
Yeah, so it's one of those old style ink pens that has, like, the little pointy
A
barrel at
little
the
nib.
end.
A little nib.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
it's filled, and so once you're done with the ink, you throw it away?
Yes, that style, which is not very sustainable. So I did buy the ones
No.
that you can redo the cartridges
Yeah.
or get the refillable little bottles of ink, which I'll do that. I did order some too that have refillable cartridges, and this is my absolute favorite, and it's a sepia colored ink. So it's that light brown tan.
Ooh.
So
Oh.
it makes my letters look like they've been around a long time, even though I just wrote them. But for practicality, just the regular blue or black ink, I kind of am partial to the blue ink. I just, it's a little friendlier, it's a little more distinctive. And then I have some old letters that were at least from the 40s that have a very distinctive green ink that I'm fascinated with. So I'm like, not only the pen, but the fountain pen and the ink colors that are available fascinate me. And I'm in love with all of that. So
I bet you
that's a
love
great.
walking into a stationery store.
Mhm. I do, and I
Oh,
like to feel all the paper, and I'm trying to use 100% cotton paper, which is actually hard to find, and it's very expensive, for Heirloom Letter Studio because it'll last longer and it's acid free. It'll it'll be there. And then Dear and Always has a little bit, not 100% cotton, but a very fine, elegant paper that the feeling of the paper. I went to paper school, by the way, to
Well,
learn all about how paper
okay,
is
well,
made.
tell us real quickly what paper school is.
Paper School was just a day. It's with Clampett Paper Company, and they offer this to people like me, professionals in a stationery world or the printing world who need to know about paper and how it's made, and that we're not really um, cutting down more trees to create paper because the paper industry plants more trees and how they use these materials and the quality of paper. So we learned all about the different styles of paper and what prints well on paper and just all the things you can do with paper. So,
That's
anyway,
fascinating.
it was a whole day.
What is your most treasured family keepsake? And it doesn't
Okay.
have to be a letter. It could just be a
Right.
tangible object or whatever.
Let's see. That's a really hard question because I have a lot for one thing, and this is where my indecisiveness come in. I could name like my top 7. But okay, for my family, and it's not from my family, it's really from my husband's family. His grandfather was a chaplain for the Air Force, and he has his mother's house, and his mother is still alive, but his sister said, "You need to have this." And it was his traveling carrying case for communion, where he would go because he was the chaplain. He many times traveled to different areas or bases, and it has the communion cup, the little glasses, so it's religious, and my husband is an ordained minister, and so he um, loves these religious artifacts. And actually, his dissertation was on material things, which is a whole nother podcast. It's also why I love this whole heirloom thing. It's like the material things that speak to us and hold this energy is very powerful in architecture and places and especially religious artifacts. So this religious artifact with this beautiful cups laid out in this gorgeous box that lifts up. It is like the opening of the box is a ritual in and of itself. And so right now, that's probably the one I'm most partial to because it's the newest in my life and it's close by and I've kind of just discovered it. So that one is a very special and different, so different. I
Yeah.
didn't know that it existed and it's just beautiful.
And think about how many hands have touched that, you
Hmm.
know? Gosh.
And how many lives he tried to bless uh,
Yes.
and give peace and comfort to. And
True. What one word you hope your family uses to describe you someday?
let's see. Yeah, this is a good one. I would hope they would say that I was encouraging, an encourager.
I love that. An
So
encourager. What would be the title of your heirloom letter that you wrote?
I would say my heirloom letter, if I could only write one, would be why this is special to me, and whatever that
Yeah.
heirloom is, I guess it could be in the title.
Have you written a letter for the inside of that communion box or had your husband write a
No, I
letter?
have not. I have not taken the time to write very many letters. I'll tell you what I did write. It was some recipes that my grandmother had, and my mom gave me a big box of handwritten recipes that were from my
Oh,
grandmother who passed away when she was 98. So you could see her handwriting in her younger years and her older years. And I typed out some of those recipes and made little recipe cards out of those. And so those are kind of the legacies. So that's kind of more close to the heart. Tagline that I'm kind of using for both companies, Heirloom Letter Studio and Dear and Always, is for you, for now, for always. And that is kind of the heirloom letter, I guess,
I
of the
love that.
whole system.
Finish this sentence. This is the last
Mhm.
thing, and then we'll wrap it up. The thing I never want my family to forget is.
How much I loved them and respected them and admire them.
I love that
They're
because those are,
amazing.
those words are so important when we're gone for them to understand, you know?
Mhm.
So if someone listening today sat down tonight after hearing the podcast to write a letter that would outlive them, what would you encourage them to say first?
I would say the words that matter most to you personally, and just kind of go through. that 7-step process. I have it here and I'll kind of go through them. Your origin story, something about your faith, whatever that might be, whatever that looks like, something about love, the love in your life, and it can be from anyone or anything, the people who loved you or the people you love. Your letters should talk about your life calling and how you changed, your transformation. Everyone has a transformation story. I really think if I had to pick one, the transformation story of your life would be the one because we're always kind of born some way and then we learn, we live, and then we end up maybe not a whole different person, but the lessons that we learned. And then the wisdom and then the legacy is the last part. So it sounds long, but they're simple concepts. And if you take them one at a time, I think it turns into your beautiful message. And that can be one single letter or that can be 7 separate letters because some people have a lot to say and some people can say it in a sentence or two.
I love that. I love that. Okay, Shannon, this has been such an honor to get to know you and learn about what you're doing to help us preserve memories and legacy. How can people find you and how can they follow you?
I have dearandalways.com. That is my most active website. And I do have heirloomlettersstudio.com. And it's not as active yet. I will go back to that and start updating as those products become more attainable. But Dear and Always, I'm collecting orders now for the personalized boxes. They'll be ready soon. And then I have 2 Instagram accounts, the same thing, Heirloom Letters Studio and Dear and Always.
Okay,
So you can
perfect.
follow me there and then I'll start updating. All my products are arriving. I'll start doing more photos, more behind the scenes videos. And I don't know, that's just been such a fun journey and I'm just starting on this journey. So this is what is most fun is kind of evolving and being a part of people's lives in these events, and hopefully my letterboxes that I've kind of designed for people will become these heirlooms of the future and the words that matter most in people's hearts for dear and always.
That's
Mhm.
wonderful. Well, we're honored to be part of your journey. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Okay, so Shannon sent me an email after we did the interview. There were some things that she wanted us to make sure that we remembered from her interview. Is that she wants us to, she encouraged our listeners to join the letter list
Mm-hmm.
on her website, dearandalways.com. And it allows our listeners to sign up for updates, letter prompts, and product launches. And then we'll put the link in our show notes.
For sure.
For you, for now, for always is the heart of her messaging
Mm-hmm.
that we're writing for ourselves, for others, and for always so that someone can hold our words dear. And after we're gone, someone we love can hold our handwritten letters, and those letters will remain dear forever.
I love that. I like that for you for now, for always. Like the for you part, we don't think about how it's healing and good for us to do it. It's not just for future generations and the people we're writing to, it's for us too. So I don't think we call that out enough.
Yeah. And that she wanted to also mention that her grandmother's jewelry box is the inspiration for why she started
Mm-hmm.
her
The box.
keepsake letter. Yeah. So, um, and when we're talking about why we don't write letters as often, she wanted to make sure that because a lot of times people don't have addresses today.
Yeah.
A lot of our, I don't know about you, it sounds like you're the same that I am. We've developed these friendships on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this texting on DMs conversation, but we don't have people's addresses. So she wanted to make sure that she included in her product line as a personal correspondence system featuring
Mm-hmm.
the old school address book and a perpetual calendar for tracking important dates, addresses, and letter lists.
I just loved it. One, because it's so in line with my goal of getting people to be story keepers and to capture the stories in our homes of those special things. And I love how she talked about choosing just 7 things to focus on. But I love the mission that she has for people with the story to write it out in a handwritten letter to loved ones, like dear somebody. I have story cards in my membership and on my website, but it's not in it's more like a card that just describes and tells a little bit of the story behind it. But I love her Dear so and so, this is this because I love the letter component, and I think that's so special.
Yeah. She wants to gift one of our listeners one of her letter writing kits.
Mm-hmm.
So, how you enter to win is you need to send us an email at the Sentimental Twist podcast at gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to provide us your name and address and tell us why you think letter writing is so important and how you would use it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to pick one winner, and we will forward that information to Shannon, and she will send a beautifully wrapped, presented keepsake letter writing system.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love it.
yeah, so be sure to enter to win, because as you know, we talked about Teresa. Teresa entered and won the Find Your Manners trivia game.
The trivia
Yep.
game. I love
Yep.
that. All right, let's move on to our next segment, which is Bless It. I had to share it, where we share fun things that we've discovered, that we're creating, that we are just loving right now. It might be a TV show, it might be a Instagram seller, it might be a product that we just can't live without now. But it's always fun. It's always random. It's one thing from the next. And so it's just something that we feel like we need to share with y'all. Melissa, would you like to?
I have two things.
Okay.
So here's the thing I'd planned. So it's Jill with Friday Finds Vintage.
Okay.
Friday Finds Vintage. She's a vintage dealer.
Yes.
She goes to estate sales. In fact, I saw her recently when I went to an estate sale. And so we met for the first time, even though I've bought so many things from her. And this is my newest little show box. I know, it looks just like yours.
Mine is behind me.
So this is my second or third to have.
Oh, that one's so good.
What I love about it is that it fits a box of matches perfectly.
Perfectly.
I mean, look at that. I have this old ratty box that I found when I was cleaning out our camping supplies. And I was looking at the box and I thought, would that fit?
I love when that happens.
So it's where I keep my
Perfect.
matches. I just love it. I just absolutely love it.
I love the colors of the shells on that one.
Isn't that
That's so
pretty?
cool. Yeah.
This little one on the top is almost kind of like a little latch.
Angle.
So Friday finds vintage. I've bought so many pretty things for her, so she'd be a good person to follow. But the other thing I wanted to share is that Brittany and I are going to be speakers at the Beautiful Table Settings Bash in Vicksburg, Mississippi in January. And tickets are already on sale.
Yes.
So what it is, it's a smaller version of the big one they do in April
In Wetumpka,
in
Alabama.
Wetumpka, Alabama. So Brittany was supposed to speak last year. Unfortunately, the girl got the flu, and because she's a kidney transplant patient, her doctors forbade her from traveling. So she had FOMO.
I had a lot of FOMO.
I was going to meet her for the first time with Julie. We went ahead and went, but everybody was like, "Hi, Melissa, but we're so sad that Brittany's not here." Like, I totally was, no one was paying attention to me. It was all about how morose we were that Brittany wasn't there. So, if Brittany stays healthy,
I'm staying healthy.
We're both going. She's going to speak on story keeping, and I'm going to speak on hosting. It's a lot of fun. Vendors come and sell dishes and linens and home decor and faux flowers. And my friend Catherine is going to be a sponsor. And so she paints people's keepsake plates as a painting. So she's going to have a booth. She's going to get to speak at lunch one day about her journey to preserve people's beautiful china through painting.
That's awesome.
Brittany and I are going to do a podcast. That'll be our live episode.
Yes. We could, yeah.
And we're going to have a little room in the convention center where we're going to present live, and maybe have some of the speakers that are there can come on for a quick little 10 or 15-minute interview. So if you go, I don't know what the website is.
BTSVicksburg.
We'll put it in the show notes.
I'll put it in the show notes.
But I highly recommend that it's a cute little town, fun little shops. They have really good food that they serve in the event, store prizes, giveaways, speakers. So I really encourage you to make this a girls' weekend. There's lots of cute bed and breakfast you can stay at. So that's my blessed. I had to share it. What's yours?
Mine's totally random, different, but I want to share about this meal prep delivery service that I found during my surgery situation. It's called Beehive Meals, beehivemeals.com. But you can choose between crock pot freezer meals or Blackstone freezer meals. And
What's a Blackstone?
it's that like the big griddle thing, like a box.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
So when I had my surgery, I had a bunch of people that, brought me food the first week. And then I knew I was going to be not able to be in the kitchen for a good little bit of time. And I did not want to eat takeout or that kind of thing the whole 6-8 weeks. So I found this Beehive Meals and ordered it. I didn't want to DoorDash all the time. So I found Beehive Meals. It came in a week before and they are bagged meals they're frozen, and it gives you the instructions on how long to cook them in the slow cooker, whether you thaw them or leave them frozen, and then ideas for how to serve them. So mainly it's like sort of the main dish. You might have to make pasta to go with it or rice to go with it, or it might suggest serving it with a side salad or whatever. But some of the things that I had chicken tortilla soup, which was, it was so good. And then Swedish meatball. So I did have to cook the noodles, hash brown casserole. But like if it has cheese to top it, they send you the cheese to top it with frozen.
Is this a national thing?
Yes, you can get it. I want to say it's based out of Utah. Don't quote me on that.
Gosh.
But it comes frozen. You put them in your freezer and you pull it out and make the meal in the crock pot. But I had summer corn chowder. Like I'm talking about all the soups because we're soup people. I'm trying to think of some non-soup things. Bang bang chicken.
So this could be something to tie back to Renee's question in our last episode. That if you're going to be hosting, then can you just order one-offs or
I don't think you can order one-offs. The box includes 10 meals. You check off like how many servings you need. So I get the small, which is like 4 servings. And so if I really want to eat that 4 meals for the week, I'll eat it 4 meals. But sometimes after I cook it, I freeze it to eat at a later date.
Stretch it out.
Especially a lot of the like chicken, like cilantro lime chicken. So you can make tacos with that. So I can freeze half of that after it's cooked and pull it out another week for lunches. I've really enjoyed it. And it's great for if you're short on time and you want to have home cooked meals. And it's also great for someone who's like going through a health thing and they aren't able to cook for themselves to the extent that they usually would, and they don't want to eat outside the house all the time or get things from outside the house. And that was me. I just got tired of DoorDash after that first week, and I was so glad I had those to be able
This
to.
can also be good because a lot of times you're cooking for someone that maybe just had surgery, like your case, and you commit to doing it on a day when you've got lots of energy, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh crud, I'm supposed to take food to Brittany this Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
This is the worst week ever.
Yeah.
Pull one of those crock pot meals out, put it in the crock pot, put it into a foil pan. It's homemade. Somebody made it homemade. You cooked it in your slow cooker, and you've got a meal to take to a friend.
Yeah. And they've all been tasty. They've all been nutritious.
I'm going to check it out. I am so hungry right now.
I know. I'm
there
so
is there is nothing better to me, in my opinion, than a crock pot meal.
I know.
Because you'll put it in there and then you'll leave for a few hours, or maybe you're doing stuff around the house and all of a sudden you can smell it.
On that hungry note, it's time to close the show.
It is. We can all go eat now.
So it's my week to do the toast to sentiment, and I will keep it short and sweet this week. But our toast to sentiment closes out the show with a poem, a lyric, a story, a quote, or something that we feel would resonate with you related to this episode or not, about home, hospitality, and life. And so I'm going to keep it short, and I'm going to use a quote from the great writer Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. It's spelled Goethe. We say Goethe, but it's Goethe.
Okay.
Goethe.
All right.
I looked up the pronunciation because I didn't want to sound like a fool.
I'm interested to see what Wolfgang has to say.
So Wolfgang, it's related to Shannon and her letter writing. So she reminded us that the words we write today may become someone else's treasured keepsakes tomorrow. And so he once wrote, "Letters are among the most significant memorial a person can leave behind them." And I just thought that was just so beautiful. And it resonates so much with what Shannon was saying, that our words for those people that we write those letters to will mean so much to them while we're here, yes, but after we're gone. And so that was a reminder that our handwriting and our stories and our encouragement to those people, even in an ordinary note tucked away in a card, can become extraordinary to someone we love years from now. And so my toast, I had to get my glass, is to writing things down before they're forgotten, to preserving the stories only we can tell, because there are some that only we can tell, and to leaving behind words that can still be held long after we're gone. So
I love that. Cheers. Cheers.
that was a fun episode.
So that's all for today's episode of the Sentimental Twist. We encourage you to follow our podcast, leave a review either on wherever you listen, wherever you watch. We do read our comments on our YouTube. Share it with a friend who loves meaningful spaces. Be sure to follow us at Home with a Twist on Instagram, Brittany Shepard on Instagram, thesentimentaldecorator.com, homewithatwist.com. Be sure to follow us on our Instagram, the Sentimental Twist Podcast on Instagram. And send us an email at thesentimentaltwistpodcast@gmail.com. We want to hear your comments, your recipes, things you want us to talk about, things you love, things you have a difference of opinion on, all of that. So,
Yep. I love it.
Thanks for joining us on the Sentimental Twist,
Where we believe every space tells a story.
and every story deserves a place at the table. Until next time,
Keep things cozy, collected, and a little bit sentimental.
bye everybody.